which is indicator of the health of the economy. And in India, fortunately, banks have been doing well in the last few years. So amendment in section 10A of the Banking Regulation Act, increasing tenure of directors from 8 years to 10 years, excluding the chairman and the whole-time director in cooperative banks. Now this is to align with the 97th amendment, it is mentioned, which had taken place in 2011. Now 8 to 10 years, now this being a cooperative itself, department being a state subject, would it be in the interest of the state more than the center to decide on this? Though I'm aware that the entire this thing of the industry that lies in the finance ministry, and of course RBI is there to regulate the whole system. Further amending section 16 of the BR Act to allow directors of the central cooperative bank, he can be simultaneously, if he gets elected, he can be director in the state cooperative bank also. Now here also the question comes whether it is with the intention of accommodating someone who's got vested interest, as cooperative banks didn't have a good history as far as state of Maharashtra or other states are concerned. Because cooperative banks have always seen upheavals, they have seen the ups and downs, and more downs have come in the recent past. And to help them to bail out, that becomes a big question, and then the entire question becomes a political scenario where if the board of directors comes from the ruling party, they are spared. If they are coming from the opposition party, they are hanged. So this needs to be explained in proper perspective. Sir, amendment of section 18, 24, 25 and section 56 of the BR Act, that is to revise reporting dates from a submission of the statutory reports by the banks to RBI, which is a very necessary step, and that is mandatory, as to align them with the last day of the fortnight. It was earlier from Friday to the next two Saturday. If the Saturday and it is aligned with the holiday and so that used to make a very much difference in reporting. So that has been taken out, that has been erased out by this amendment, which of course would be seen in good light. But supervisory role which was being played all along by the Reserve Bank, has it been lessened? The inspection which used to take place in the banking system, that has really gone down, and now to buck it up, to bring it to a certain level, these steps were necessary, and I think if any other motive was there, could be explained while answering when the bill is being passed. Amending section 45ZA, 45ZC and 45ZE of BR Act to allow the nominations up to 4 persons to ease services for the depositors. This is also, though it looks welcome, but as it has been mentioned earlier by one of the speakers, that does it not spoil or does it not come in the way of Indian Succession Act? Because on the death of the account holder, the succession becomes, and you have to get the probate from the court unless that is been dealt with at detail. The account or the nominees also, they do have problem in operating the account. So even that needs some explanation. Amending section 38 of SBI Act 1955, section 10B of the Banking Companies Act, that is transfer, acquisition and transfer, 1970, and section 10B of the 1980 for transfer of unclaimed dividends, shares and interest, or redemption of bonds to Investor Education and Protection Fund, allow the individual to claim the transfer of or refunds from that account. These steps were welcome and expected also, but the major thing is today, if you go by the reports, that due to steps not taken at a regular interval, even non-performance by the bankers as far as KYC of the depositors are concerned, not many accounts have been there, and they have not. They are dying in a dormant position. I think RBI today only issued a missive or advisory to the banks, stating that get the inoperative accounts, get them made active. So according to me, that these kind of steps which are we are for passing or transferring that to investor education and protection fund, that is also a step in that direction. And it's a welcome step, I would say, because investors do need this support, because today, more than banking, people have moved away from banking as a source to save, and all other elsewhere. Instead of banking, people have moved out because they find that that is more lucrative than banking. And sir, that section 41 of the SBI Act, that is to bring in the auditor or the discretion to the bank for appointing the auditor and remuneration of the auditor. I think RBI is not moving away from its, or it is not going away from its duty, that whenever anything happens, any funds transfer or anything which is of suspicious nature which takes place and becomes a scam in future, RBI should not be moved out, as otherwise remuneration is decided and the auditor is decided by the bank itself. Then bank and the auditor, they come into issue, they come into problem, and RBI moves out of the picture. And lastly, I would make a point, sir, that GDP in the last quarter, that has come down to 5.4, and that is industrial, because industrial output was not up to the mark. That credit offtake, which is seen that this will facilitate the banking industry and the depositors and the investors, that people at large would be making use of banking facility. I think that is not going, because if the credit minister may explain while answering that whether credit offtake is smooth in the banking industry. If that be so, then where the private investment is, why the GDP is going down. And lastly, last but not least, that whenever bank comes into an issue in the problem because of any kind of scams or mismanagement, bailout is the only option. And in the last few years, that bail-in was the option being thought over, where bad bank was to come into picture. What is the picture now? Because once bailout is the thing that the government has been doing, recapitalizing the banks with the funds and reflushing that banking funds so that bank can operate very smoothly. Nowadays, it is the other way around. If bail-in comes in, people will move away from the banking system. If not, that is not to happen. We'll have to make the banking industry very strong.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.